Hello, my audience. I'm reviewing Marvel Phase 2, Cinematic Universe. That started with Iron Man 3 and it has Thor 2, Ant-Man, Captain America 2, Guardians Volume 1, and first Ant-Man movie, and Thor 2. I'm thinking if that's all of the ones in the lineup of Phase 2. I think so. So, I give Marvel Phase 2 a 5 points out of 10 points. All of their movies in the Phase 2 lineup. I give each one 5 points out of 10, and how they all come together is a confusing mess in their lineup of Phase 2. Connecting them all together feels like a confused mess, like they didn't really have a plan. This was making shit up as they go along. I can see where the bullshit's coming from. This way I have a bullshit detector on my... You know how Spider-Man has spider sense? I have a bullshit detector. I can tell when people are just making shit up from when they just have a planet following. I can tell Snyder has a planet that he was following with his Snyder universe. I can tell Marvel at this point entering Phase 2, they don't really have a plan anymore. They're just making shit up off their asses as they go along with their installments. Sure, there might be like a few Infinity War Easter eggs teasing the Infinity Thanos coming and stuff, but most of it is just made up shit that doesn't even connect to each other. Versus world building stupid logic. It's not like they're following the comics logic anymore. They're following just like what they originally can come up with. That's the most original take on, not the most faithful adaptation, entering Phase 2 and Phase 3. And to this day, whatever phase they're on now, it's like they're still having that problem. After exiting Phase 1 and wrapping up with the first Avengers movie and entering Phase 2 with Iron Man 3 and so on and so on. I can tell at this point they're just making stuff up. They're not even using any blueprint or plan at this point. They're just trying to see what characters they can do to get popular and get a fan base at this point. Thor has been rewritten as his character rewritten for... He has his character pretty much go for the same character arc. Like him finding himself and him being lost again and stuff. You know, when you tell the same story over and again with the standalone characters like Thor and Spider-Man and Captain America, it becomes less compelling each time you do the same thing. With the retread similar laws with the characters. With their standalone outings. And that's what Phase 2 really does. Retreads similar wars with the sequel outings of the similar characters from their first outings. They give them the same character arc but a different threat level of a villain to take care of. That's totally the difference. That's totally something different and inspiring and original, right? Than rather just take what the comics did with the characters and recreate that for live action. Which is more original to you, sounds like. Take inspiration from the source material of 616, or come up with something unoriginal while giving the characters the same character arc in each solo outing for each spin-off. That's not the Avengers coming together events. I don't know. I feel like they've lost them fucking Marvels, them in the fan base. Because it doesn't seem like they know what they're fucking doing anymore, like they have a plan or a structure anymore. They're just winging it. Seeing if they can get lucky, if they can make enough money. And they did with Phase 2. Even though it wasn't incredibly well received like Phase 1 was. It took a bit of a dip in critical praise. Entering Phase 2 and Phase 3. Because I remember how popular Phase 1 was when it came out. It was more popular than Phase 2 and got less popular as each phase grew on. So the most popular Marvel's been was in their Phase 1 decade. And that was before they really became a name for himself. They made a name for themselves after they were kind of tanking with the solo outings. They made a name for themselves with the Avengers first outing, and they finally got respect and praise for their work, for the past, even for the past stuff from leading up to the Avengers. But then entering Phase 2 with Iron Man 3 and so on and so on, they got less liked. And Marvel, you can tell that after entering Phase 2, it seems like when they came to Phase 2, it seems like they got a little greedy and had a bit of an ego, I'm guessing, and thought that they can just make anything and it'll sell and it'll be good. They were probably right, because we did give them money at that point, but now these days, as time progresses, and they're still doing the same mistakes that they kind of built for themselves with Phase 2 and Phase 3, not many people are seeing them as much as deserved praise. Because the movies are flopping more, and because, you kind of drove the original OG fans of the source material away. After a year into Phase 2, and finished Phase 2, and went on Phase 3, and so on to this day, whatever phase they're on, 6 or 7, I think. They haven't gotten any better since Phase 1 still. They haven't reached the peak from Phase 1 days. They're still in that Phase 2 problem that started with Phase 2, carried on to Phase 3, and it's gradually gotten worse over the time how they make their films and treat their films as punchlines of a joke. They treat their movies like punchlines of a joke, and we reward them for making punchline movies. They treat their movies like they're jokes, and we reward them like they were jokes, and love them because they were jokes. And then sooner or later, people forgot that they're rewarding guilty pleasure, not anything actually good. And this is why we have more people will look finally back on the Snyderverse by DC that was created by Zack Snyder, with launch was Man of Steel. Then we can look more fondly. This is why we can look more fondly back on the Snyderverse, one of the reasons. And then we can look more fondly back on the Marvel movies. Because they haven't really improved with age, like as they get further and further, like to progressing with making movies as the decades go on. They don't really feel like since they have any leadership at Marvel entry since Phase 2. Like there's no vision. There's no clear direction what's going on anymore. It's just a bunch of laughs. Why not just have throwing laughs tracks while you had like you did with WandaVision show? That seems like it'll fit the movie perfectly with the Guardians movie, I think. And all the ones from recently in Phase 2. Just add laugh tracks. It will be bring the movie to life, I think. Because we're not making this for the fans anymore of the source material, obviously. You're just making it for the general movie goes to get a laugh. So why not bring on a laugh track while you're at for each movie? It'll get obnoxious, but obnoxious is what you want to do. You don't want to make good quality art, you just want to make obnoxious art that will get into their rising and talking about and blah 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 and gossiping over you. That's all they want. Well, that's the only reason what the movies are made. That's what they made the movies dedicated for. The people who can mock these movies, because these movies are absolutely mockable, laughable, bad. Entering Phase 2 and exiting Phase 2 and going on to this day, they're that bad. I've realized. That's why I give Marvel Phase 2 a 4 points out of 10 points. All Phase movies gets 4 out of 10 movies. Movies get 4 points out of 10. Each one. And how they come together as a 4 out of 10. Their universe sucks. This is phase 1 of the Infinity Saga entering phase 2. And wrapped up with phase 3. The Infinity Saga. Why is it called the Infinity Saga? Because it ties in. Because there are Infinity reference in the Infinity Saga. Till we get the actual Infinity Gauntlet in an event was the Infinity War. Thanos a good villain, but he's a good villain when it's a shitty movie. I think the reason why Thanos is such a good villain is because the Avengers are so incapable of doing their job at being a competent hero in the Infinity War movie. They're written to be as the butt of a joke hero, and Thanos is written as the man villain that gets it done. That's why Thanos is good. Why he's liked, okay? He's a good villain in a mediocre, shitty movie. Title Infinity War. Avengers Infinity War. Who's the villain of? Sure, he was the villain at the end of Endgame, but wasn't in the whole thing. Like he wasn't in Infinity War. I mean... yeah, so this franchise is what it is. Shit. Beyond my description of shitty writing. That's why I give Avengers Phase of Infinity War of Marvel's Phase 2 a 4 points out of 10 points. Like this video, grow my likes, grow my subscribers. Like this video, I hope. Enjoy this review video, I hope. You did. Bye.